I've been trying to call. I've been on my own for long enough. Maybe you can show me how to love. Maybe I'm going through withdrawals. You don't even have to do too much. You can turn me on with just a touch, baby. I look around and since it is cold and empty, no one's around to judge me. I can't see clearly when you're gone. And I said, ooh, I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep right until I feel your touch. I said, ooh, I'm drowning in the night. Oh, when I'm like this, you're the one I trust. I'm running out of time, 'cause I can see the sun light up the sky. So I hit the road and overdrive, baby. Hit the road and overdrive. The city's cold and empty. No one's around to judge me. I can't see clearly when you're gone. And I said, ooh, I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep until I feel your touch. I said, ooh, I'm drowning in the night. Oh, when I'm like this, you're the one I trust. I'm coming back to let you know I can never say it on the phone. But when I let you go this time, I said, ooh, I'm blinded by the night. No, I can't sleep until I feel your touch.
Awesome. I mean, we knew we had an opportunity to do something special tonight, on national television. Probably our last primetime game. Hope America liked what they saw.
What do you think you showed them?
Hey, we a heck of a team.
Come on.
I'm just trying to be a better version of what I was yesterday. All that stuff's cool, and I definitely used it a little bit, but I'm just trying to be, the best version I can of myself. And these guys on this team have helped me become that each and every day. So.
Feel free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is picking on you. Feels like
well. Can you believe it? I can't. I'm sitting here the day after, and I still don't know if I can even comprehend what I watched last night in Miami. It went from being Monday Night in Miami, the horror film, to The Miracle in Miami, the thriller. I have no idea how to explain, but let's try to unpack what happened last night. Welcome to the bonus episode of Two Tone Talk. I don't normally do episodes on Tuesday, but I told you guys I was going to do one today because you got to do an episode today after a game. There's always so much to talk about, and here we are today. With about 4 minutes to go in a game last night, I thought, man, this is going to be another episode of Two Tone Talk where we got to come on here and mope around and try to talk about who should go and how bad it was. I mean, that was what it was looking like. And then something happened. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What in the world happened? But something woke up inside of these guys. And I still can't believe it. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Like, what happened, what Tennessee did last night, I feel like that's the kind of stuff that normally happens to Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? Like, Tennessee is always the team that, oh, they've got the lead with 4 minutes to go, it's essentially over, and then the other team scores, you know, and ruins our day. But last night it was Tennessee. Now, I have no idea what happened to the Dolphins. Okay, Miami just completely collapsed in the Final Four. I don't know. Obviously, they were without Tyreek Hill for a large chunk of the game, but we were without Jeffrey Simmons for the whole game. And he's probably one of the best players on the team, top 3. So, I don't know. But I will say this. Through all 4 quarters, I was really impressed with the effort and the heart of the team. I said it last night, man. If this team was supposed to be tanking for draft picks, somebody forgot to tell the players, because these guys came out there and played their butts off. And sometimes it wasn't pretty, and sometimes it just, you know, didn't work out. But one thing I could say, I don't ever question the Titans' heart. You know, like they go out there and give it everything they got. Without Jeffrey Simmons last night, like, the defense especially, going against this offense that at one point this season put up 70 points, man, that was an impressive effort. And it would have been a great effort if the Titans had lost. That defense played hard. And it should be commended. It really should, because the Dolphins scored 3 touchdowns last night. One of them was a pick 6, so that's not on the defense at all. One of them, well, I mean, the other 2 were pretty much gifted to them inside the 10-yard line off of turnovers. And so this defense, somehow, some way, man, they held it together. And I know Tyreek Hill being out for a large chunk of the game, that played a role, but, you know, the Titans were 2 touchdown underdogs. They played hard, and I was so aggravated because I was like, you know what? We've played hard. We're here in the 4th quarter. We're tied with them, and we're going to lose this game because our punt returner made a boneheaded play and decided to touch the ball when he shouldn't have, and then they scored easily, and then we got the ball back, and a wonky pitch to Henry ends up being a fumble recovery. I was like, man, I understand losing to the Dolphins. I was like, but man, come on. Like, let the Dolphins go. Make them go on a drive to win the game. Like, make them go down and earn it. Don't just give them the ball inside the 10-yard line twice in a row. Like, come on. And I thought it was over. It was 27-13. I was about to start getting ready for bed. Like, I thought this thing was done. And Titans start marching down the field. And you had a couple plays to Spears that got him down there. And then all of a sudden a play to Nick Westbrook-Akine. We're down there on the 2-yard line. And then one thing I hadn't realized until that point, I was like, man, we got all 3 of our timeouts. We got all 3 of our timeouts and the 2-minute warning still. So, theoretically, if we score here, it's not over. We get the touchdown. We get the 2-point play. What about Vrabel going with the analytics right there? 2-point play. We force a 3 and out. If Miami gets 1 first down, the game's over. And I was willing to be like, you know what? Good job, guys, for continuing to fight. Good job making it interesting. But then we got the ball back. I was like, holy crap. Like, what? Big play to Hopkins. Chig gets a nice screenplay, and before you know it, we're in the end zone again. And then they get the ball back with one last chance to go down and get a field goal. We sack them. It's over. Like, it was like a blur. It was like just a flash of like, I don't even I can't even describe it to this moment. How did that happen? What happened? It was like you were playing Madden and you were losing, and so right in the middle of the game you swapped it to rookie mode just so you could come back and win at the end. Like, I don't even understand. What I will say is this. There are certain guys on this team we got to talk about. I don't know. I mean, the Titans are 5-8. Best they can do this year is 9-8. I'm not willing to sit here and talk about playoff hunt or whatever, because I think that's too much. That's a lot to ask, because the Titans need to win out and they need a lot of help. There's a lot of 7-6 teams in the AFC. They're still alive. They still have a pulse, but I doubt that the playoffs are anything that are going to be a thing this year. But there are some who are saying it was a bad thing the Titans won because of draft placement. If we had lost last night, we would have a top 5 draft pick right now. Because we won, we drop, a few spots back down. And I just think, and a lot of people seem to agree, what happened last night was more valuable than moving up in the draft. The Titans are probably not going to make the playoffs. The Titans, no, they're not going to get Marvin Harrison. They weren't anyway, because I still think Chicago's going to take him at number 1. But what happened last night, for guys like Will Levis and Tyjae Spears to go in there and do what they did last night, 2 touchdown underdogs on the road against a team who is going to be in the playoffs, against a team who people are talking about as a team that could make a lot of noise, down 2 touchdowns with 4 minutes to go, and to do what they did, like, if you're Vrabel, if you're Rand Carthon, if you're Will Levis, this is the kind of stuff that you can build on. That happened last night, that's the kind of thing that you can look back on next year and say, you know what? I remember when we went to Miami. I remember when we went there and we were down and we were trailing. Like, this is the kind of stuff that young players and a team who's kind of, pretty much rebuilding this thing. Last night, that's the kind of thing that goes a long way. If they don't win another game this year, if they fall apart the rest of the way, if they lose out, whatever, what happened last night in Miami, that is the kind of thing that you take with you into the offseason. That's the kind of win that you take with you into next season as you rebuild this roster. Last night was a great thing. It was a great thing. And if they had lost, yes, we could come on here and talk about who we're taking in the top 5, whatever. The draft order is going to change drastically every week, okay? But what happened last night was more valuable than moving up a few spots in the draft. What Will Levis was able to accomplish, let's talk about him. I thought last night what Will Levis showed and what Will Levis did last night, I thought it was his most impressive outing as the starting quarterback of this team since he took over. I thought it was more impressive than his debut. I thought it was more impressive than the game in Pittsburgh. I thought last night, he was very impressive. He threw a pick 6 early on in the game. A bad one. Trying to screen it out of his own end zone, and some defensive lineman picks it off and returns it. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be a disaster. Not just because I thought the Titans were going to lose, but because, oh great, Will Levis is going to have a bad performance and everybody's going to start sour on him. But man, I'm telling you what, from then on, that second quarter on, he made some unbelievable throws last night. Unbelievable. let me think of a few in particular. The throw to Hopkins, they're going toward the end of the first half, almost to halftime. First of all, we got the ball with 2 minutes to go in the half, and we played it so conservatively that it was making me want to bang my head against the wall. Run. We ran the ball 3 times in a row, punted. After we had just blocked their field goal, that still annoys me. Then we get the ball back with 30 seconds to go in the half, and then we decide we're going to get aggressive. What? Why? Well, I know why, because we ended up getting points, but either way. And also, let me say, how big was that blocked field goal by Danico Autry, by the way? We won by 1 point. That was a huge blocked field goal in hindsight. But also, we get the ball back with 30 seconds in the half, and the throw, 2 throws actually. The first throw that Levis made to D-Hop into like triple coverage, 3 Dolphins surrounding the ball, and Levis just drops it right into the breadbasket. Whoa. That throw made me feel a tingling sensation. Okay. The next throw was the deep ball to Hopkins, which got him in field goal range, which was an incredible catch by Hopkins. What a game he had. Are you kidding me? That guy, on this team, with this roster, DeAndre Hopkins is going to have over 1,000 yards receiving on the year. And that's a pretty impressive feat. On this roster, with the way this season has gone, for him to be on the verge, about 100, little over 100 yards away from 1,000 yards on the year, that's pretty impressive. For a guy that people said was washed. What do we say? You know, everybody talked about these legendary wide receivers that come to Nashville, to Tennessee Titans. That's where wide receivers go to die. Julio, Eric Decker, Andre Johnson, Randy Moss. And everybody just thought DeAndre Hopkins was going to be just like those guys. Well, he hasn't been. He has been phenomenal. I don't know what we would do if he weren't on the team. Because outside of him, every other guy has like 1 catch a game. Okay? DeAndre Hopkins has been great all year, and he was fantastic last night against good corners, by the way. So those throws were unbelievable. I actually thought Will's best throw of the night was the deep ball to Spears. Spears ended up fumbling it out of bounds, but that throw, go back and watch that throw to Spears. It's the one where they thought it may be incomplete, but they ruled it a fumble out of bounds by Spears. That throw was unreal. And then to do what he did, to get the ball back 4 minutes to go, down 2 touchdowns, and to just lead them down the field twice. Everybody talks about the Titans. Oh, they run the ball. They love to run the ball. Derrick Henry, they run the ball. They got to get the run game going. Think about what they did last night. The run game did nothing all night long. And the most productive that the Titans offense was all night was in situations where running the ball was not an option. In the first half, going into halftime, with 30 seconds to go, you can't run the ball in that situation. We just marched on down the field. End of the, 4 minutes to go in the game, down by 2 touchdowns, you can't run the ball. We had to throw it on down the field, and we did, twice. I know Henry ended up scoring the touchdown to take the lead, but we were on the 2-yard line by then, okay? So, could we, I definitely think Derrick Henry is probably gone at the end of the year. Are we potentially, is this the setup for an identity change in this offense? Because I'm not saying running the ball is not important. I'm not saying we shouldn't run the ball. I don't want to be the Buffalo Bills and have no running game at all. But after what I saw from Will Levis last night and what we've seen from him mostly this year, I think it's time to go out and get some weapons this offseason and make this a passing offense. Because the best our offense looked all night last night was when running the ball was not an option. We had to throw it. And we did. And we did it well. And it was Levis and Hopkins mostly, but Chig got involved a little. Spears got involved. And I'm telling you, for all of the talk about how the Titans have to run the ball, they can't function unless they're running the ball. Well, they functioned quite well last night when they couldn't run the ball. So that's something to monitor going forward. But back to Levis. I thought this was his most impressive outing. I am more sold on him than I have been. The debut against Atlanta was great. The way he played against Pittsburgh a few days after that was great. Had some struggles since then, hasn't really been as impressive. I mean, not saying it's all his fault, not saying that he's been bad, but, played pretty well against Indy last week. And then this, in Monday Night Football, backs against the wall, to do what he did last night, like, that is your guy, man. That's the quarterback next year. And it was going to be anyway, but now you can feel good about it. Like, this guy is real deal. May not always be pretty, but the passion he brings. Now, I don't want to see him taking these crazy hits anymore because he's going to get hurt. Can't be effective if you're hurt. But the passion he brings to the sideline, team seems sold on him. I mean, that's the future of this team. And if what he was able to do last night is any indication, it's a pretty bright future. But it's not just him. I liked what I saw from Spears last night. I've liked what I've seen from Spears for most of the year. Harold Landry, came back to life. That's going to be a major piece for them next year. He returned from ACL surgery, got off to a slow start, as most people do off of ACL surgery. And you know what? He played pretty darn well last night. Let me tell you who else played pretty darn well, and that's Danico Autry. I would love to see him back next year. I know he's a free agent, and there's a good chance he may be elsewhere. But if at all possible, I would love to have Danico Autry back on this team next year. I think Arden Key is a guy who's been playing better. Man, I would love to have Tier Tart back, but that's maybe a long shot too. We still need new linebackers, but I thought, they played hard. And the secondary without Fulton played hard. I thought Amani Hooker had a very good game last night. Very good game last night by him. Offensively, the offensive line, they technically only gave up 1 sack. There was still a lot of pressure on Levis. I still think, Jalen Duncan has a place on the team. I don't think it's as a starter, but I can see him being a rotational guy. Dylan Radin's false starts a lot. I still would like to try out somebody else at center. The guards I thought were good last night. I thought Skoronski and Brunskill both played well. Traylon Burks, really, 1 reception for 5 yards. Chris Moore, I think, had 1 catch. NWI had 1 catch. Kyle Phillips had no catches. So it's like we were literally carried by Will Levis, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyjae Spears, and then Henry, who didn't have a lot of yards, but he did have 2 touchdowns. So there's that. But there are some pieces there. Chig has been better. He's been better. The drops were out of hand. I still can't believe we're at this point in the year and he still doesn't even have a touchdown. But Chig has been better. He's been better. He's improved. Enough that I can look at him as a guy who can play a major role next year. I can look back at him and say, okay, maybe there's still hope for him. It was just, but Will Levis is the guy that I'm most encouraged about after last night. I look at Will Levis and I'm like, holy crap. I see a little Steve in there, little Steve Air McNair with just that, because Steve used to lower the shoulder, right? Steve never slid. That's why he was hurt all the time. It's why Steve was banged up constantly, because Steve didn't slide. He just tried to run people over, right? See some of Steve in there, but people say I'm crazy. I saw a little bit of Brady with that sideline passion, man. Like, when they scored that touchdown and he's over there like busting a blood vessel, getting fired up on the sideline, that's Brady-esque. I mean, I love the passion. I love the passion. I love the energy. Don't think I'm saying that he's Brady. Don't think I'm not crazy. I'm not that much of a homer. I'm just saying I love the passion. I love the energy. He's feisty, and there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to Will Levis. And you know what? Some of you guys are going to not like this one. I'm feeling better about Mike Vrabel because this was a Mike Vrabel win if ever there was one. Like, Mike Vrabel knows how to do the underdog, gritty, nobody thinks you have a chance, your best defensive player's out, like, on the road, nobody thinks you have a chance, and then you go in there and find a way to win. Like, that is straight out of the Vrabel playbook. Like, that's what he does. What I would like to see going forward, not just with the 4 games we have left this year, but as we go into the off season and into next year and into next season, like, let's, and I want to see it from Tim Kelly too, like, just give Will Levis this offense. Like, I'm kind of, and I understand they may do it sometimes because this roster's not great, but there are some times where we don't have to be so conservative. And sometimes I feel like we are so fixated on getting the run game going. And I love the run game. Don't think I have anything against Henry or Spears or anybody else that we got running the ball. But sometimes I feel like we are so fixated on the run game that we make it harder than it needs to be. Like, when your quarterback's in a groove, when your quarterback's playing well, just let him throw it. It's like there are times where we get the ball and I feel like they're standing over there like, okay, we got to run the ball here. We got to get the run game going. That is what we must do. That is our identity. That is who we must be. Sometimes, as we saw, and I said it a little bit ago, the most productive the Titans offense was last night was when running wasn't an option. They had to throw it. Like, if you're going to go out this offseason and you're going to get your weapons, whoever that is, free agents, draft, trades, whatever, when we come back next year, we don't have to sell out to run the ball 40 times a game. We don't have to do that. There's a freaking gunslinger back there, who's ready to throw that thing. And if you get him somebody else to go along with Hopkins, dear God, come on now. I ain't saying we got to abandon the run game. I'm just saying the days of having to hand the ball to Derrick Henry 30 times to have a chance to win, those days are over. Those days are over. We don't have to have, let's just hope that our quarterback can get 200 yards in passing and maybe hit a play action, touchdown here and there. It's like, no, we can, throw it now. We need better receivers. I'm talking about going into the offseason and the next year. I'm like, man, we can throw this thing. We got a dude who can sling it here. So we don't have to just run the ball until everybody falls asleep, So that's what I would say going forward. I would love to continue to see Vrabel, and I'm done with all of this. Like, Vrabel doesn't like Levis. He doesn't. That's bogus. Okay, y'all know that's bogus. If there are problems you have with Vrabel's coaching, that's fine. But I'm sick of hearing about body language and he didn't hug Levis enough, and I'm sick of that. Sick of it. Okay. And I tell you this, it's funny today on Twitter to see, for instance, Colts fans who are like, well, whatever, Anthony Richardson's still better than Will Levis. Listen, I don't have anything against Anthony Richardson. And I'm not here to tell you Anthony Richardson's bad, but what are you even basing that off of? That Anthony Richardson played in like 3 games this year. And I hate that he got hurt, but like I'm not making light of an injury, but like the facts are, how can you possibly say that you've seen enough of Anthony Richardson to confidently say, oh, he's better than Will Levis? And furthermore, while I'm just feeling a little juicy today, what has anybody seen Trevor Lawrence do this year that has made you go, oh, ooh, he's great? Like, what has he done other than look like the chick from Glee? What has he done? The chick from Glee that was like the blonde, stupid one. What has he done this year that makes anybody go, gosh, that guy's good? Like, what has he done? Other than be a little over dramatic about that ankle injury last week, where he just ended up playing a week later. I mean, other than that, what has he done that gets anybody fired up about him? CJ Stroud, there's a lot of potential there, but like he did throw for 90 yards total against the Jets in a 30-6 loss the other day. Okay, so I mean, let's not act like it's all been sunshine and rainbows for him. I'm just saying, in this AFC South full of young quarterbacks, full of, presumably Lawrence and Richardson and Stroud and Levis, like these are going to be their guys for these 4 teams for the foreseeable future. And I like who we got. And you know what, I'll say this too, because I was on record when we were going into the draft last year. I blatantly said I did not want Will Levis. I said it over and over. I said, listen, I'll take Bryce Young, which is hilarious in hindsight. God forgive me. I said, I want CJ Stroud. I said, I could be talked into Richardson, but I'm not crazy about it. I said, I don't want Will Levis. I said, I can't be talked into it. I can't, you can't tell me that's a good idea. I don't want Will Levis. And then they drafted Will Levis. I said, man, what? Like, come on. I was on the record as saying I was not crazy about it, and I was not happy about it. I'm man enough to come on here today on this podcast and say I was wrong. I was wrong. And that's okay. Will Levis, if you ever see this, you probably won't, but if you ever see this, man, I was wrong. I was wrong for doubting the pick. Rand Carthon, if you ever see this, I was wrong for not wanting Will Levis. I'm man enough to say it. I was wrong. I'll come on here anytime and say I was wrong. Man, I'm glad to be wrong. I'm thrilled that I was wrong. Okay? I also thought the game was over last night with 4 minutes to go. Once again, I'm glad I was wrong. I'm thrilled to be wrong. Okay? I ain't got no problem admitting when I'm wrong. Now, looking at the rest of this season, let's talk about it, okay? Don't laugh. Don't laugh. Don't crack yourself up. Let's talk about, because the Titans were on life support in terms of this season last night, and then they won, so they do have a pulse. What needs to happen for the unthinkable to happen? You know what I'm talking about. Tennessee, they've got 4 games left, as does everybody. Houston, Seattle, Houston again, and then Jacksonville. 3 of these 4 games are at home. Which, by the way, that's something we haven't talked about. The Titans finally won a game on the road. Whoa! Finally! Let me first of all say, in looking at the Titans' 5-8 record and where they stand in the mix, I hate to bring it up because it's just the way the NFL is. Man, there are 3 games that I look back on from this season, and I want to just bang my head against the wall. The first one, season opener against the Saints. Lost by a point. Got robbed by the referees because we should have had a touchdown on Byard's run back, but also Tannehill played like poo-poo. lost by a point to the lousy Saints. Gotta give anything to have that game back. Give anything to have that game back. Ugh. And I felt it in my bones at the time. Even though it was only week 1, I was like, I feel like this is going to haunt us. I feel like this is going to be one of those we look back on and say, God, if we had just won that one. So that one, that one comes to mind. But there are 2 more. The next one is the Thursday night game at Pittsburgh against the lousy Steelers. And I don't care what the Steelers' record is. They are lousy. We should have won that game. And if you go back and watch, I was so mad after that game. I was so frustrated and angry after that game because I knew, I was like, this is going to be one of those. This is going to be one of those we look back on and say we should have won that game, and we didn't. And if we had, we'd be having a much different conversation today. And the last one that comes to mind is just last week against Indianapolis, losing in overtime. Those 3 right there, if you could just get one of them back, even one of them back, you'd be sitting a lot prettier. 2 of them back, you'd be right in the mix. The NFL is a cruel, cruel place. These close losses like this, where 1 or 2 plays decide the outcome, man, it comes back to haunt you. But as it stands, we're 5-8. 2 games technically out of a wild card, but there's only 4 games to go. And a lot of those teams that are sitting there in the wild card hunt own the tiebreakers over the Titans. Teams like the Browns, the Steelers, the Colts. These are teams who own tiebreakers over the Titans because they beat us head-to-head. So, and in the case of the Cleveland Browns, they beat us so bad head-to-head that we should just bow out altogether. But what needs to happen? Okay, I've been looking over this. First of all, Titans need to win out. Okay, let's just say that happens. Let's say the Titans win out. Because theoretically, they could very well beat Houston on Sunday. At home, and I think C.J. Stroud's probably not going to play because he's got a concussion. I mean, it's very rare that somebody clears protocol that quick. So it could be Davis Mills. No. Davis Mills could come in and throw 500 yards because who knows. But theoretically, the Titans could very well beat Houston on Sunday in the Oiler throwbacks at home. And then you've got Seattle, who, they've got a backup quarterback in. Geno Smith's hurt. Who knows how long he'll be out. Seattle's fighting for their lives. Then you got Houston again. Then you got Jacksonville. Okay. Let's look in terms of the division. By my calculations, and I could be wrong. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. By my calculations, you would need Jacksonville to go 1-3 over their last 4 games. This is assuming the Titans win out. This is all under the assumption that the Titans win out and finish the season 9-8. Okay. You would need Jacksonville to go 1-3, of course, with one of those 3 losses being to the Titans in the last game. Jaguars play the Ravens this Sunday night. Most people are probably going to pick Baltimore to win that game. I am. So the Jaguars could very well lose to Baltimore. The Jaguars do have to play the Carolina Panthers. They're going to beat Carolina. Okay, I'm pretty sure I could go to Walmart right now and get 10 other people to walk out on a field with me, and we could probably beat Carolina. Now, with that being said, crazy things happen. Carolina has 1 win on the year, and it was against Houston. So, but still, the smart money would be Jacksonville, when they play Carolina, they're going to beat them. And then Jacksonville plays at Tampa Bay. I mean, hey, Tampa Bay's going to have a lot to play for because they're in a 3-way tie at the top of their division, and it's at Tampa Bay. I mean, that's one of those that, who knows? So you need the Titans to win out. You need the Jaguars to go 1-3 with one of those 3 losses coming to the Titans. And then there's another team from Indianapolis who is causing trouble for us because they're 7-6. You need the Colts to fall apart. Okay, you need the Colts to fall apart. And we're talking about AFC South. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about wild card race. I'm strictly talking about the division. You need the Colts to fall apart. You need them to, at best, go 1-3 over these next 4 games. And looking at their schedule, guys, they're at home against Pittsburgh on Sunday. Then they're at Atlanta. Then they're at home against the Raiders. And then they're on the road against Houston. I mean, so they're not playing like scrubs. It's not like they're playing Carolina and Arizona. But, I mean, these are middle-of-the-pack teams that Indianapolis, who did look bad on Sunday against Cincinnati, but overall, Indianapolis looks pretty good more than they look bad. I find it hard to believe that the Colts aren't going to find a way to win at least 2 of those 4. Let me read them to you again. Colts remaining 4 games. They are at home against Pittsburgh on Sunday. I mean, that feels like a game that the Colts are going to win to me. I think Pittsburgh just lost to New England. Okay. But then again, Mike Tomlin, he's kind of a Mike Vrabel style coach. Like, this guy is going to come in there and pull all the stops, okay? At Atlanta, I mean, Atlanta, who knows? At home against the Raiders who got shut out on Sunday by the Vikings. Ooh. And then against Houston. If Stroud's in by then, that could be a loss, but man, you need the Colts to at best go 1-3 in those 4 games. So let's say you could see Houston beating them. They're on the road at Atlanta. Who knows? I don't know. I can't imagine them losing to either the Steelers or the Raiders at home. But that's why they play the game. I couldn't have imagined the Texans getting beat, by the Jets 30-6 the other day. And speaking of the Texans, I mean, you play them twice. And they, I didn't think they would lose to the Jets the other day. They did. So you play them twice, so Tennessee can kind of control that one. You play Houston twice, so you kind of can control that narrative. And by the way, Houston also has to play Cleveland somewhere in there, and that's going to be tough. So, it's just you need a lot of help. You need to win out. You need Jacksonville to lose some games. You need Indianapolis to lose most of their games. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying stranger things haven't happened. But that's what you need to win the AFC South. Now let's talk about this wild card race, because this wild card race is even harder. You got a lot of 7-6 teams. A lot of them. Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Cleveland's actually 8-5. Cleveland's 8-5, and then you've got Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Denver, Houston. That's 5, 7-6 teams right there. All hunting for a playoff spot. I'm going to just assume Cleveland's going to have one of these playoff spots. I mean, they're 8-5. Their final 4 games here, they got Chicago, they got Chicago, they got the Bengals, they got the Jets, they got Houston. Not in that order. It's Bears, Houston, Jets, Bengals. That's how their schedule works out. And they own a tiebreaker over the Titans. So if you're the Titans, you need the Browns to lose out. And I just don't think that's going to happen. Now, I will say, Chicago is playing better. Chicago could maybe beat Cleveland, and then they play Houston, who knows. And then by the time they play the Jets, as crazy as this is, Aaron Rodgers could be back in for the Jets. Which the Jets are the Jets ahead of the Titans? I don't know. But I'm just looking at the 7-6 teams. I don't know how you're going to keep Denver out of there. They're 7-6. I don't know how the tiebreakers work out because the Broncos and Titans haven't played. They don't play each other this year. But I just don't know how you're going to keep Denver from going 10-7 at least. They're 7-6, and they got to play the Chargers without Justin Herbert. They got to play the Raiders. They got to play Detroit. I mean, that could be a loss, maybe. So, I don't know. It's going to be that wild card road's going to be tough because then you got Buffalo who's getting hot. Indianapolis, who's in that race too. So it's going to be it's a lot to ask if you're hoping the Titans can make a run. It's some people on Twitter are acting like the Titans are going to win out and go to the playoffs. It's about more than winning out. You need to win out and you need a lot of help. Okay, so there's that. In terms of the draft, last night was not a disaster for the Titans in terms of the draft. Yes, if they had lost, they would have been in the top 5, but winning, they're still like in the top 10. And the draft order is going to change every week. Some of these teams in front of them, with the way things have turned out, like the Giants have a lot to play for. They're going to keep trying to win. I think there are a lot of these teams in front of them still that are going to win more games. So I still think for people to act like the Titans are just going to be subjected to drafting some bum because they won last night, I don't think that's true at all. Either way, what a night it was last night. And you know what? I heard Mike Keith as he signed off last night on Titans radio. He said the Titans found a way to win for Frank Wycheck. I like that. They won it for Frankie. And I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year. But you know what? There's reason to be happy today if you're a Titans fan. There's reason to be encouraged. There is... last night I felt like I went to bed with a smile. Not because I feel like they're going to make the playoffs. Not because I, feel like they have no problems now. But because, you know what? We can go into this offseason knowing we've freaking got our guy at quarterback. We've got some other pieces in place. Hopkins is going to be back. Spears is going to be back. Landry's going to be back. Simmons is going to be back. Hooker's going to be back. Chig playing better. He's going to be back. Skaronski's going to be back. We've got some pieces there. We got a lot of money to work with. And we're still going to have a draft pick on the higher side of things. So you know what? Every team's got to go through years like this, right? Every team has to go through these years where you just got to grit your teeth, get through it, and look to the future. And we got to look at the future last night. And I like our chances with Will Levis. I love what I saw from him last night. Thought it was his best outing as a Titans quarterback yet. I hate that the pick six happened early on in the game, but in a way I'm glad it happened because it showed the character of this guy to overcome that adversity to come back and do what he did. I hate that they were down by 2 touchdowns with 4 minutes to go, but in a way I'm glad they were because look at what it allowed him to do. To come back down there twice and win the game, pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. As TW said, last night reminded me why I care so much and why I love the Titans and football in general. Bingo. They're probably not a playoff team. It's not a playoff roster. But you know what? We love the team. And after last night, we can love where it's headed. We can love where it's headed. If you got your quarterback, that fixes a lot of problems. We can look elsewhere and fix this other stuff. O-line, secondary, linebackers, wide receivers. We can go fix all that and know we've got our quarterback in place, so that's taken care of. So I am glad with what I saw last night. Not just that they won, but the way they won. Good stuff. I will still be back Friday for my Friday episode previewing the Titans and the Texans. I don't think it's going to, I almost said Levis versus Stroud, but I really doubt Stroud plays in this game. It's the Titans and the Texans and the Oiler throwbacks. And hey, is it likely that the Titans are going to make a run and go to the playoffs? No. But at least it's something to talk about. At least we get another week to hypothesize about how it could happen. There's a pulse. That's better than not having a pulse. This is the Two Tone Talk Podcast. I will be back Friday. Can't wait to see you then. Thanks, everybody. This is the Two Tone Talk Podcast where we stay way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. See you next time on the Two Tone by God Pod. Bye, everybody.
So many people try to get you to fit their mold. I think it's time for a change. this is what I say.